Hey, good afternoon, everyone. I'm really excited to be here today to share with everyone on the topic of business analytics. First and foremost, I'd like to thank Smart Nation and Digital Government, Digital Office Government, especially Michelle and Emmeline for the support and for organizing this webinar this afternoon. I'll start with an introduction about myself. I'm Samantha, Senior Lecturer from Information Systems and Analytics at National University of Singapore. I'm under ACE in the School of Computing. So I conduct analytics and data science programs for professionals and executives, as well as our undergrads. I'm also involved in projects related to this field. To share about what we do in advanced computing for executive A's at NUS School of Computing, these are 4 areas to what our teams do. We help companies embark on digital transformations. We upskill and reskill mid-career executive and professionals in the ITC sector. We also educate senior and middle management in current and new ICT trends. Most importantly, our programs are a good starting point for individuals who are absolutely new and keen to pick up and learn technology skills in the digital economy. Right, today I would like to share with you some high-level insights picked up from trends in business analytics. I would first talk about the key drivers behind the current analytics trend. Then going deeper, I will talk about how to achieve success in actually doing that. How we can ensure good ideas are taken into the implementation stage, and finally to production for success in your organization. And we will look at 3 use cases in the areas of healthcare, education, and community service in Singapore. To make it more concrete, let us look at strong emerging trends that push towards data-driven decision-making today. So I will point out to specific drivers why data-driven decision-making is becoming a norm in many organizations. Right, the first notion is customers today demand product and service personalization. Customers expect this to be our standard product features. They are busy, distracted, and they want relevant information timely. At the same time, our customers are also open to engaging with trusted companies. So in a way, customers today set the expectations of what should be right and what experience should be provided. So we can see this especially in the retail and entertainment sectors, which really set the expectation on what personal experience should feel and should look like. Right, the second driver or the second notion is data proliferation coming from our Internet of Things, our sensors, as well as the big data analytics area. So nowadays, products and service providers have a lot of unprecedented insights for their advantage. We have sophisticated analytical techniques and a lot of computational power these days, which made advances in analytics easier to achieve. The third notion is that data-driven decision-making is becoming a norm in many organizations. We see many more traditional companies that depend on experience and intuitive judgment are now using data insights. Within the organization, we see people are using customized dashboards to access information within your organizations. Hence, advanced data foundations actually accelerates the speed of business transformations. And of course, the last driving factor is monetization with data. So data monetization strategy is becoming more common across sectors within the right data governance framework to generate value in completely new ways. Right, so why use analytics to drive decisions? So decisions made today when we have a large amount of noisy data can be better supported by business analytics. Let me first provide an overview of what is business analytics. It usually starts with an analytical view of data. So this includes the two questions. One, what is being measured? And is it what matters? So the data generation and collection is a process by itself. We can think of data as an information asset in the process. So the goal is, what is the value created from business analytics, and how are we using it in a sustainable and scalable way? So when we talk about value creation, it can be in terms of greater efficiency or greater effectiveness, right? Better decisions can help to reduce costs, reduce opportunities, and improve the allocation of resources in the organization. So I also have 4 questions for you to think about. The first question, what are you doing with your data? Second, what kinds of analysis are conducted? And are people in your organization making better decisions using data and analytical methods? And finally, how confident are you in the results? Okay, let's have a short poll to these 2 questions. How you are using data and analytic methods in your organization. Please feel free to scan the QR code, or you can also type in this link on your mobile devices. Then I think it's good that we can share some of the real use cases of how people in your organization are making better decisions using data and analytical methods. Right, thank you. We have 3 responses coming in. Right, thank you for the responses. We have a total of about 30 responses. So to summarize the responses from audiences, it's mainly to identify root cause, to analyze certain behaviors for better decisions, to see any trends, generate effective effective decisions, to forecast opportunities, as well as to understand the situation. Right. So I do see there is a wide range of use of techniques, maybe descriptive, predictive, right, and data visualization from the responses that I have gathered from everyone here. All right. Thank you for your responses. So thank you for sharing with everyone here to give us a good picture of how organizations today is using data and analytics. Right. So I have a pretty good group of experienced audiences who are familiar with the use of analytics in business. So over the past 10 years, business analytics have actually undergone some major developments. So one of the big change is our scope of data. It has been labeled as big data due to the phenomenon of increasing amounts and variability of data. So data comes in different formats such as images, videos, and audio files. The fact is that the volume, the variance, and the velocity of available data has gone up. And there is increasing use of cloud solutions as well. So the three main factors that encourage the success of business analytics in the organization is first one, data. So we should view our data as an information strategic asset. The second important element would be the methods and analysis, because business analytics is increasingly applied and automated in the digital processes. And today, BA is also much more than just providing decision supports to humans within an organization. It's also about the provisioning of data to drive digitalized processes in an intelligent way. Right, not forgetting our last or our most important element here, which is the people. We need to have the people with the diverse skills to formulate and execute a well thought through strategy. So when we talk about human competencies in BA, they can be thought of as someone in the organization must be able to retrieve data and deliver it as information. And even more important is the human decision support. So people who are given the responsibilities must be able to understand the decision support given, handed over to them. Right. So the takeaway for BA should be deliver the right decision support to the right people and digital processes at the right time. So right now we are in a very exciting space where our digital economy is growing rapidly with strong public sector support. And data analytics has been identified as an important sector of growth that enables businesses and government to improve productivity, competitiveness, and growth as we move to become a smart nation. In the recent 2022 Skills Demand for the Future Economic Report, analytics skills is one of the main priority skills for tech-like roles. So this bar chart is actually extracted from the report. And if we look at this bar chart, analytics roles that are growing in importance includes data analysis, analytics, big data analytics, data visualization, data governance, and information modeling application. Next, let us look at an executive or summary published by McKinsey Consultants on the potential of BA across sectors with high big data value potential. So to interpret this bubble chart, we would focus on the right axis or the right end, which captures the sectors with higher big data value potential. Right at the top quadrant, we have the information technology sector indicated by the darker shade of blue. So in the information technology sector, given they already have a ready pool of talent, IT people who are already working in this field, this success has actually helped to accelerate the development of business BA. And also, this is also partly attributed to their established IT infrastructure. So the information sector is well positioned to benefit from analytics. Right, moving down the quadrant on the right end, another interesting sector is finance and insurance, where they have access to existing customers' data. So most customers they are customers of various banks and purchase various financial products, and financial institutes by itself already have a huge pool of IT talent. So they actually have a high potential in analytics for this sector, with both the people and coupled with the large amount of data they have in their database. Right, the final sector in this report, which has a high big data value potential, is the government sector. So where analytics can be used to help to improve the quality of life and in policy making. Some of the learnings which I would like to share with everyone on how companies can build their strong business analytics and business analytics capabilities along the way. Right, there are a total of 6 points here. The first and the foremost is the most generic point. Align your organization on clear and shared strategic objectives, which means focus on the benefits. So it's important to align your organization with the clear and shared strategic objectives in order to gain from the usage of BA. The second point says that tech and data science will not alone deliver value by itself. So our technology using very advanced, very expensive systems or very impressive techniques will not alone deliver and build capacities by themselves. So, on building BA capabilities, we actually need to make it very coherent and very clear to our users. They could be business executive, the stakeholders, on how analytics will benefit them or what it is in for them. So the stage is actually to get the buy-in first, followed by their adoption and engagement to power the entire transformation to reach its full potential. So the second point also meant that our BA by itself is the case of features tell, but benefit don't. So a lot of time and feedback is trying to communicate this particular message to your stakeholders. Right, so next one, in terms of timing, how long does it take to build a BA capabilities within the organization? It is going to feel more like a marathon rather than a sprint. So what you are trying to do is not to deliver a one-time solution. Ideally, what we were trying to achieve is to build the capability in business. And this is usually not a static set of requirements. So I would choose to look at it as a long-term journey. So a journey that uses information strategy, because in business itself, there is a need to be agile. So business requirements are going to change pretty often, and usually the specific sets of skills also grow. Use cases change over time as well. Hence, it's very important when we are building the BA capabilities that it's going to be adaptable. Right, and then let's look at the next point. So the path for each different sectors is also different, as in the time it takes to reach maturity in the BA capabilities. So financial companies and technology companies, for example, are very advanced and way ahead of most of the other sectors that we see. But say real estates have not found the critical use cases yet. So certain sectors will have a much longer journey and further opportunities to travel in. So if you're trying to benchmark your journey, your BA journey, where do we actually look at? So one suggestion is to look beyond your industry to see what you can achieve, um, to see other possible use cases, to learn from other sectors, and then consider what use cases is relevant to be applied to your own sector. So let me just give an example to this point that I have described. So for example, in the customer trend personalization, right, been more relevant to B2B context, business to business context. So we see that context and our learning is transferable. The two prototypes can be built and experiment on the use cases as well. So we do see the learnings from such use case learned, transferred, and apply to another sector or another industry. Right, the final point that I want to share on building the BA capabilities is on using technology as well as people. So when we are looking at expanding our BA capabilities, questions we should consider is what are the steady streams of new tools that are available? Are there any open sources that is available at a lower cost or zero cost? And what more advanced tools are ready for use? And in terms of people side, there are different types of talent. So let's say you can consider at the junior level, at the data science level, we have many new talents, new young and bright talents coming from the data science fields, coming from various educational degree programs, as well as upskills programs of people transitioning into the data science fields. Right. So with that, I will be moving on to the use cases in Singapore in the three areas: healthcare, education, as well as community service, to illustrate how business analytics can create value and provide better ways of working. So in each of the use case that I will be sharing with everyone here, you realize that BA actually addresses at least one problem, and it can be used to provide better ways of working. So I will start with the first use case of using analytics in healthcare. In Singapore, we have a very good healthcare system in place. And our healthcare system is designed to ensure that everyone has access to different levels of healthcare in a timely, cost-effective, and seamless manner. So the goals include having better health for our Singapore population, better care for individuals, lower cost through improvement, and improved healthcare provider satisfaction. So by harnessing data for healthcare, analytics actually help to provide insights to doctors so that they can learn how to treat a whole cohort of patients or manage a disease. And analytics can also help to improve hospital efficiencies and processes, such as the length of the patient's waiting time. Operating theaters can be efficiently utilized with a shorter wait time due to more accurate time predictions for complex procedures. And it is also a new tool for healthcare that can be used to improve our patients' outcomes as well as experiences. And finally, it can lower healthcare costs, such as helping doctors to optimize the length of hospital stays and hence reducing patients' cost. So just one example in the case of rising bed utilization in the ICU wards during the peak of the pandemic, SingHealth has actually used visualization of data to provide a solution um, to manage the capacity and free up beds for new cases. Okay, so I would next talk about the continuum of care in healthcare. So in healthcare itself, the continuum of care is being used to describe how healthcare providers follow a patient from preventive care through medical incidents, rehabilitation, as well as maintenance. So depending on the patient, this might involve the use of acute care hospitals, ambulatory care, or long-term care facilities. And the coordinated effort to medical care would actually bring better outcomes for the patient. So if you look at this whole broad spectrum of the diagram that I am sharing with you, effective treatment over the continuum of care requires attention to many different moving parts. So not only does the medical care needs to be coordinated between a variety of providers, the financing record keeping must also be efficient and accessible. Right, so we actually use electronic health records to manage better quality of care, and Payers Network have also helped the logistics involved in supporting the continuum of care. So one of the example of the implementation of predictive analytics in the healthcare use case would be this nationwide predictive model for admission prevention that is being implemented by IHIS SingHealth. So this SingHealth IHIS predictive models was actually launched in all public hospitals in Singapore since April 2017. And to date, more than 12,000 patients have actually benefited from this particular predictive model. So I will briefly describe this particular use case that is used in our healthcare in Singapore itself. So despite having received extensive care throughout the duration of hospitalizations, patients who have been discharged often needs to be readmitted. This could be due to conditions deteriorating, maybe due to suboptimal care and support that is available in the community post-discharge. And this group of high-risk patients tends to be 65 years and above and hospitalized for an average of 10 days when they are readmitted. So this nationwide predictive model for admission prevention is used in the hospital since 2017. So it starts off by with any patient that is admitted into the hospital on an unscheduled admission. The patient will first be diagnosed by the doctor, and the routine data is used to feed into a prediction tool to flag subsequent readmissions. So next, after the stage where the data is key in, the care team then arrange for a safe transition care from hospital to home. So upon the patient's discharge, right, all these are actually planned. And using this model, the suitable intervention plans such as nursing, social, and community supports are actually planned way ahead. And finally, patient is discharged timely and reviewed and monitored within the community, inside the community. Okay, so what happens or what goes into coming up with this predictive model is actually this summarized by this diagram here. So this is made possible by 3 stages of data sources, processing, as well processing and modeling of data, and finally dissemination of information to the care team. Firstly, the data source is longitudinal with sharing of patients' data across different health institutions. So our National Electronic Health Record, otherwise known as NEHR, allows each patient to have one consolidated health record, as many citizens actually visit multiple healthcare providers in our lifetime, from different polyclinics to specialist clinics, therapy centers, and hospitals. So this secure system collects the summary of the patient's health records across different healthcare providers. So it allows authorized healthcare professionals to have a holistic picture of our healthcare history. Right, so let's look at the second stage, which is the brain behind this predictive model. So when any patient with an unscheduled admission hospital, with this data, a predictive model that targets the patient's risk of subsequent multiple readmissions is able to predict the risk with a certain level of accuracy. So this model uses several indicators. For example, they may include a patient's age, the number of inpatient admissions, the total length of stay for the past 2 years, and the predictive model will actually automatically analyze if the patients will be readmitted 3 or more times over the next period of 12 months. And with that, the insights is passed on to the care team, disseminated to the care management team here, especially if the patient is classified as high risk. So this early alert will allow the care team here to prepare and allocate resources and tailor care plans according to the patient's needs after they are discharged. So the patient gets enrolled into the hospital to home program, which allows them to receive care through home visits and phone follow-ups by the required healthcare professionals. So with adequate community-based care, patients can be timely and safely discharged from the hospital and remain well at home. So this model has actually been deployed by IHIS across all public hospitals and in Singapore, and is now an integrated part of the patient assessment workflow for the H2H hospital to home program. Right, then with that, I will talk about another analytics use case in education, in particular, learning analytics. Right, so similar to the continuum of care for healthcare, in education, we want to follow a student's journey from his or her enrollment as a freshman to the type of learning support the students receive, the assessments, the individual progression at every stage of her journey, and finally, the reaching of their graduation. So our learning analytics can actually further enhance a student's learning journey. So one, our learning data can improve the quality of teaching and learning. It is used mostly as a diagnostic tool on both an individual level, such as identifying individuals' learning, and at a systematic level, which means informing the design of the modules as well as learning activities within an educational institution. This helps the teacher to better support students' learning. Right, the second point is identify struggling students. By obtaining better data on the student experience, it actually potentially enables an education institution to identify and address at-risk and struggling students. So with this, educators can intervene with advice and support at a much earlier stage than would otherwise be possible. So all these interventions will have a positive impact on students' retention. The next point about our learning analytics is that it allows us to cater for personalized learning or allow personalized learning to be delivered at skills. So some users, for example, students can be directed to learning materials based on the basis of their previous interactions, the understandings of related content and task. Okay, so with that, the diagram on the right is actually the examples of small-scale learning analytics projects carried out at various universities. Okay, so I will just talk about one or two interesting use cases that has been carried out at the Institutes of Higher Learning. Okay, for example, Purdue University in US, right? So potential learning problems in students are identified as early as the second week in the semester. So something that was not possible before the use of learning analytics. So that allows for early intervention and leads to more B and C grades instead of D and F grades among the students. So the use case of using analytics in education can be illustrated, just an example of a simple illustrations of using learning analytics to implement it in a classroom scenario. Okay, I'll go through the blocks in this particular use case here. So in the classroom, actually multiple activities takes place concurrently. So even if we have a very healthy teacher to student ratio of say 1:20, the teacher is actually multitasking. So she has to deliver, facilitate, observe classroom dynamics, classroom management, as well as interact with students in that short 1 hour of lesson. So that leaves very little time for measurement of learning if you're looking at each and every student. So the use case in learning analytics in the classroom will actually help or supplement the measurement of learning of each individual learners in the classroom for the teachers. So you can start by, of course, the students have to be aware that the learning activities data will be collected with the consent. So nowadays we see that in-class learning activities are very well supported by digital devices such as a laptop or mobile devices. So we can actually collect and measure data through such digital learning devices. So the first thing that the educator has to do is to design what is the measurement of learning by the digital tools in their learning and teaching activities. So what are the learning outcomes have to be decided before the implementation of the learning analytics. Okay, so with the right design of the learning activities in the digital environment, say it matches the learning outcome of a particular learning activity, the data can actually be visualized on a dashboard. So another source of digital activities would be the online learning platform, where students learn independently in the blended learning when they access online materials, complete some online tasks that is previously designed for them in their learning. So the metrics that we see on the visualization or staff visualization dashboard allows the staff to actually measure the level of competency. And this is especially helpful to the teacher to know where are the learning gaps. And she can actually take further actions in the next lessons, as fast as the next lesson, to close the gaps in each individual learner. So there's quite a bit of personalization coming in, because with that you are able to identify which particular students has a learning gap and how to close up that learning gap. So this is an example of using analytics to evaluate the online learning behavior. All right, this is the students of my undergrad module that I'm teaching this semester. So we can actually measure the engagement, the amount of time students view, complete, and engage within the learning management systems. So there are various cost components within the learning system itself. So such insights actually review the online learning behavioral pattern, and it actually helps us in our pedagogical activities design subsequently. So the nice things about analytics is that I can further review my content for a particular tutorial recording. So using this visualization dashboard that I'm sharing with all of you, we can view the different aspects of students' engagement, such as the time of the course accessed, right, the navigation, the duration spent on each different course component, the completion status. So this would better help inform us on our subsequent pedagogical decisions. Right. So finally, I will talk about the last use case that I would like to share with everyone today, how we can put analytics to better use within our community. Right. So this is a use case on helping providing community service using business analytics. So this particular use case is relevant to our context here because we know that the proportion of older folks living alone has been increasing since 2000. And between 2000 and 2015, the percentage of elderly who are 65 years old and above living alone is between 6 to 8.9%. Okay, and with more older Singaporean women than men. So this is actually a cause of concern on the physical, psychological, as well as the social well-being of home alone elderlies in Singapore. And the projection of elderlies living alone may raise to 83,000 by the year 2030. Right. So my project, my colleague here, Sharon, has actually done a project with iPel Lab on the analytics through the Internet of Things for home dwelling elderly. So in the community itself, we actually have a group of caregivers who looks after in the ratio of 2 caregivers to 100 elderly who are staying alone in the community. And the caregivers actually supports the elderly on a wide ranging of issues, ranging from emotional, health, psychological, as well as financial issues. So what this group of community caregivers do is to call the elderly if they're unseen for a while. And the elderly who are living alone are usually impoverished elderly and strangled from the family members, and they really rely heavily on caregivers from non-profit charitable organization. Okay, so because the caregivers to home alone elderly ratio is pretty high, 2 to 100, meaning to say that one caregiver actually looks after 50 elderly folks under their care. So using analytics through IoT, these devices, there is actually a support system to help to complement the existing support that caregivers have in monitoring this group of elderlies here. Okay, so I would just talk a little bit about the implementation of this project and how data is collected and then analyzed to give us analytics and insights on the well-being, the physical and emotional well-being of elderlies. Right. So for indoor monitoring, so this is actually a floor plan, a home plan of the premises of the elderly. So there is actually use of motion sensors, bed sensors, smart plugs, door contacts. So these are IoT devices placed in important areas of the home of the elderly, and they are running 24 hours. So at any point of time, data is actually collected to know the activities of the older folks. And for outdoor activities, the elderly will usually wear a wearable device, mobile phone, or carry beacons with them that they can put in their handbags, or the beacon as a keychain. So all these devices help to track and monitor the daily activities of the elderly folks. Okay, so in this particular project, my colleague actually has this device here to monitor the sleeping patterns of the elderly. So for the elderly, the sleeping patterns actually reveal a lot about their physical and psychological well-being. So a prolonged period of inactivity at home, or we call a zone dwell time, could actually indicate trouble for the elderly resident. And this is the time where we actually need to have a trigger to the caregiver so that the caregivers can drop a timely call to check on the elderly folks. So the sleep pattern is closely monitored in this project. So the quality of sleep is actually a good indication about the physical and emotional well-being of elderly. So most elderly older adults requires about 7 to 8 hours of good quality of sleep each day. So for example, if let's say an elderly folks have 5 to 4 hours of sleep, indicates that there is levels of stress within the elderly, especially if there's lots of waking up in the middle of the night. So on the other hand, excessive daytime sleeping could also mean underlying causes of depression or boredom, chronic pain, or medications that the elderly is having. So with the use of IoT and all this graph which are generated by analytics, it actually helps to alert and trigger the caregiver who will actually then drop in on the elderly to check upon them. So this is really a use case of analytics to help within the community here among the elderlies in Singapore. Okay, so some of the positive effects on the elderly of this device is that we can actually have a closer monitoring of their activities on a daily basis to better understand, are they having a quality of life, and their outdoor activities as well. Are they in good health and it has good well-being? And on the caregivers, it actually improves the efficiency and effectiveness of detecting problems, or detecting early if the elderly actually needs help, and then can reach out in time. So I think I would also want to wrap up my talk because I'm running out of time. Yeah, so I just want to briefly cover this part on the government personal data protection policies, in case some of you might have questions about how well protected are our personal data in today's context. So in Singapore, the government takes responsibility as the custodian of data. So we have both the Personal Data Protection Act to provide a baseline standard of protection to personal data in Singapore. So this helps to safeguard personal data from misuse and maintain individual trust in organizations which hold onto the personal data. Right, then within public sector, we also have the Public Sector Governance Act. So by regulating the flow of personal data among organizations, we have PDPA actually strengthen Singapore position as a trusted hub for business. So we actually have a very good data governance framework in place to protect the usage and disclosure of our personal data. Right, so I have come to the end of this afternoon's webinar sharing. 5 more minutes, Michelle. Okay, thank you. Right, so if you're new and keen to explore business tools and application in business analytics, right, our center NUS ACE have this professional certificate in business analytics. So you can acquire competency in starting to use business analytics tools in your organization, design and evaluate patterns and insights using descriptive, predictive, and prescriptive methods. So if you are keen, you can reach out to my colleagues at SOC ACE. Okay, so right, so I think I will pass over to Michelle now.
Thanks, Samantha. Thank you for your sharing. I think we have a lot of questions, so we'll just go straight into it. There was one question on someone was interested, about how he can, break into the data science sector. So I think the course that you have just shared is a good starting point, and importantly, is 90% funded, so that's helpful. But first, I want to address some definition questions, right?
Right.
We had one question, right? What is the difference between data analytics and business analytics? So maybe Samantha, if you could help to address that. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Michelle. I think this is really a good question coming from Reagan, right? The difference between business analytics and data analytics. Right. So if we actually look at the data, the analytics, right? Analytics is actually a very big umbrella, and it actually relies on 3 different spheres of knowledge. One coming from the statistical part, where you actually learn statistical modeling. Okay, then the other area is the IT technical part that got to do with knowing how to extract, transform, and load data from a database, how to use the different technological tools. And the last part, when we talk about business analytics, we also have a segment of the business, my light went off, the business domain. If you're a business expert, your own sector, you know what is your own business metrics, business goal that you want to look at. Right, so when we talk about data analytics, we are actually slightly moving away from the business aspect. So in fact, data science and business analytics is closely related together. There is one area of overlap. So in terms of the IT techniques, such as the statistical methods, the modeling that we use, the predictive models that we use to predict results, or the prescriptive models like linear programming, both share the same models. So data science, you can think of data science as a big umbrella, and business analytics as a small subset of data science. And right now, if you're familiar with AI, machine learning, data science is a subset of AI and machine learning. So all these are actually interrelated. So what you learn in BA helps in data science, and what you learn in data science will help you in AI and machine learning. So I hope that answers the question.
Thanks, Samantha. I think we'll maybe take 2 more questions.
Right.
The second question is a question from Joselle about whether business analysts should rely on past data or real-time data. So based on my understanding, I think both are equally valuable, right? Because for past data, it's helpful for you to do more longitudinal and long-term analysis of past trends. Whereas real-time data is good for you to give a snapshot of the current situation so that you can quickly adjust certain things. Yeah, but I'm sure you'll be able to give a more professional and in-depth answer. So yeah, over to you, Samantha.
Yeah. Yes, thank you. Thank you, Michelle. I think you have actually generally summarized the difference between past data and real-time data. So when we talk about past data, it's actually very important to us as well. This actually falls under the branch of descriptive analytics. So in the past 20 years, when we build reports, when we generate yearly reports, quarterly reports, monthly reports, what we are doing is looking at the historical trend to see how we can learn from our past mistake, what kind of new improvements we should come up with to prevent us from committing the same mistakes. So that is the use of past data. So we shouldn't just discard away this important branch of analytics. Okay, then when we talk about future, you want to predict the future. That's where the new part of analytics come in. It's actually known as predictive or prescriptive data, because we don't know what's going to happen next month. But all these models actually need our past data to fit into the predictive model so that we can predict with a certain level of accuracy. So the word accuracy is very important, because we are never able to predict 100% accuracy, but to get a 90%, that would be good enough. So for example, in let's say my students, if out of 10 students, out of 10 at-risk students, I can predict 9. That is already very good. It's almost 90%. Right. So I will now answer the last question on the real-time data. So I think the question is good, because real-time data is completely different and something that we can tap onto because of our computational power today. So real-time data is very important in certain industries, maybe airport. Yes, I will talk about airport, right? Because as we know, the Changi Airport, let's say they handle maybe in just 1 minute, we can have 10 to 20 to landing in Changi Airport. So in that scenario, real-time data is very important. So without real-time data, the precision of 1 to 2 seconds, there might be a terrible accident at the airport. And when we talk about real-time data, based on some of the consultancy reports, we will see this being more important when we talk about asynchronous vehicles, where there are no drivers behind the car, because you need to respond in time as short as 6 seconds. That's when real data is very important. Real-time data.
Thanks, Samantha. I think that was such an insightful answer. And maybe, going to a related point, I think Celeste was asking generally, how can SMEs make use of business analytics, and how much does it cost to digitize the data? So I'll try to answer from my perspective. How can SMEs use? So I just posted a link in the chat box about IMDA's free BI tool. So do feel free to check that out. But I think in general, it's about how SMEs can use data to improve business outcomes, right? So there are a few things, right? Growing sales, obviously. How can we use data to target the right customers at the right time? So that's very important. Secondly, of course, is inventory management. How do you ensure that you do not overstock certain products and you can keep track of your products in real time? So those are some of the use cases that I can think of: marketing, sales, and inventory management. But I think, Samantha, obviously you have a richer perspective. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Thanks. Thanks, Michelle. Yes, I think Michelle shared a very valuable resource with the audience. That is the IMDA analytics. So IMDA itself on the website, if you can see, they actually provided dashboards for SME to use. And the dashboards is actually Microsoft Power BI dashboard. They actually already come up with the template. They suggest to users how you can collect point of sales data and generate some basic metrics for SME to look at your own business needs. So I think earlier in my talk, I did talk about human competency is very important. So maybe you might want to ask yourself, do you have the people to use that tool that IMDA has provided for your organization? So if you already have 1 or 2 colleagues or staff who are competent in using Power BI, then you can do a very quick analysis of the data that that an SME have So then I also promote my course again, right? So this course on professional cert in BA, we actually have a 2 days program in Power BI to show you how to get started with dashboard building.